Well, preparations are underway in Detroit as the city prepares to host its first NFL draft in league history. More than 300,000 people are expected to flood Detroit over the three-day event, shining a national spotlight on the Motor City. Hello and thanks for tuning in to our 2024 NFL Draft Preview on 13+. I'm A Sports anchor Mark Skoll Jr. alongside sports anchor Jacob Seuss, executive producer Brad Ivy, and meteorologist Blake Hansen will be touching on several topics over the course of the show, including the prospects with ties to West Michigan. Will the University of Michigan break the record for most draftees? And the debate that is driving the internet wild the last few months: where should JJ McCarthy land? But first, we start here at home with the Detroit Lions. Of course, they are coming off of a historic season, finishing 12-5, winning their first division title in 30 years. They won 2 playoff games at Ford Field before losing in the NFC Championship game to the San Francisco 49ers. We don't need to talk about that, though. They hold 7 draft picks, including pick 29 in the first round, and they still have several needs to address after a busy offseason. But first, Brad, I'm going to start with you. As a native Michigander, what is it like to have the NFL draft in your home state?
It's special. I mean, for years it was held every year in New York City, and just in the last 7-8 years they started rotating host cities. And to have it in Detroit, to have it here in Michigan, I'm going out there. I'm making the short 2-hour drive to go check it out. I'm excited, and it's something you hear. I think it was Stephen A. Smith during the playoff run. Detroit still gets a lot of shade, and to have the opportunity, the city to have an opportunity after the year that the Lions had to show what they're made of, it's exciting.
The only thing that bums me out about it is that the Lions just don't have a high pick that people are going to be excited about. They're going to have to wait till 29.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing, though. It would drive up the excitement, but you're happy to be 29 after this last season.
Oh, by far. Hopefully they don't trade the pick. That makes the people upset watching the first round. But I think what's just exciting, Brad, you put it on the head there, is that coming off this season, and the announcement that it was going to be in Detroit was before this season. So to have this type of season really just is getting people excited for this upcoming season with high hopes, even higher hopes than what they achieved this last season. It's a big thing for the city of Detroit. By far.
All right, Blake, we're going to start with you. What do the Lions need to do in this draft to get you excited?
Well, if there's one thing that Brad Holmes has taught us is that you should be excited no matter what they choose in this draft. Last year, arguably one of the best draft classes out of all teams over the last several seasons. I don't think there's a direct need per se. Of course, we can look at the defensive side of the ball. That's where they struggled last year. But they've made a couple good free agent signings to kind of mask that. They signed DJ Reader from Cincinnati to plug up the line.
Solid.
Matthew Betts, the Canadian Football League's most outstanding defensive player of the year. So they have added depth in another name, Carlton Davis from Tampa Bay. So they have made some free agency signings, but I think we did the same thing last year, the Lions did, and then we saw the injury bug hit them, especially in the secondary. So I think from a draft perspective, obviously highlight the defensive side of the ball a little bit more to keep adding to that depth. But I think if they decide to go offensive too, a wide receiver, I wouldn't be upset with it. So I think to put this all in a bow, I think they just need to attack who the best overall player on that draft board is at the time of their pick.
Yeah, you touched on it. It's refreshing as a Lions fan to go now into a few off seasons in a row and not have to worry about the GM. He's proved himself. The million years are over. Mm-hmm. We have a GM that, even though he might do something during the draft that the average person might not expect, he might take a person that wasn't projected to him. He has earned the credibility to do that. So that's one. If he does something I'm not expecting, he gets the benefit of the doubt. But if it were, I think Blake's absolutely right. Defensive side of the ball has got to be a priority. I am sick and tired of watching 4-man rushes that don't get anywhere close to home because you can't blitz in the NFL like you can in college. You need to have a 4-man front that can get to the quarterback, and they have Aiden Hutchinson, and they got no other pressure. And I'm sick and tired of watching him bust his butt and not get any help on the other side. So I don't know if they'll be there, but guys like Chop Robinson, Darius Robinson, the Penn State and the Missouri guys, I think those would be fantastic pickups. Everybody knows that they need corner help. It's not really Brad Holmes' MO to take a defensive back very high. Quinyon Mitchell is the kind of, I think, the cream of the crop, but he's probably not going to be there. He's projected as like a high teens pick. Kool-Aid McKinstry, he kind of fluctuates, but he's a big corner, which is something that Holmes tends to gravitate to. So
faced a lot of great talent in the SEC.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. And he was teammates with Brian Branch, of course, at Alabama, so that's an added bonus there, too.
So I think it has to be, it doesn't have to be, like you said, if he takes an offensive player, I'll trust him. But to get me really excited, we got to shore up that defense and stop giving up 30, 35 points a game.
All right, Jacob, you're new to the area.
Yeah,
what say you?
Absolutely. It is a luxury in the NFL draft to go in and say we could take the best position player available. There's a lot of versatility with what the Lions could do for this draft. Could they trade back if there's a desperate team when you get into the 20s? Blake, you said it. Would Detroit fans really like that with it being in Michigan in their hometown? Probably not, but you also have the luxury of trading up. If there's a guy like Cooper DeJean, Chop Robinson in that early 20 spot, if you want to slide in there, maybe lose a pick later in the draft, I think a team could be willing to do that. But yes, I think defense is going to be the priority for this team. I think, though, if you want to put someone next to Jamison Williams and you get a wide receiver, this is a great wide receiver class. And, of course, you have the guys who are going to go in the top 5, the top 10. But once you get into the 20s, there's that second level of wide receivers that would probably be first-round picks, early first-round picks.
This is a very good wide receiver class this year.
Yeah, you could take anybody once you get into that 29 range. So that's exciting for Brad Holmes. And like you said, you look at last year, Laporta, Jack Campbell, Gibbs, benefit of the doubt. Lion fans just have to trust.
Of course, obviously, there's a couple positions they don't need to draft. Running back is one of them.
Quarterback?
Quarterback? No.
King Goff.
Goff. Yes. They don't need a tight end. They have Sam Laporta. They just re-signed Brock Wright, so they're all set there from the tight end position. But elsewhere, it's a wide range of what they can do. And again, like we've all said, it's an exciting draft because there is this uncertainty of what they can do this year.
How many teams, though, you look at throughout the league have that luxury to say, we could take best player available?
Not many.
We don't have one glaring hole that has to be addressed in the first round.
You could even argue the two-time defending Super Bowl champions have a lot of holes, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They struggled throughout the year. And the Lions are very fortunate. Of course, they have their defensive woes of the past, but they have playmakers on the defensive side of the ball as well. So it's exciting that they can go a wide range this year. And, of course, it goes back. Brad Holmes, you got to trust him.
So the original question was what's going to get you excited for the Lions draft? And what we've seen the last 2 drafts is Brad Holmes get up and slam everything down. Get excited. That's what I want to see.
That's
we got to
see. Part.
And they've made 2 trades the last 2 years. We'll see if they trade up. There's a guy that we want. But if Brad Holmes is getting excited, then I know they're getting a dude out there.
Dan Campbell drinking his 4th extra large coffee of the night.
I think that's
Sheila
what's
Ford getting her ribs broken because you got Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, which are big men, just picking her up and giving her a hug.
Yeah, that's what I want to see, and I think we're going to see it. Brad Holmes is obviously a guy who's done his research. He's been able to nail picks years after years after years, and we'll see what he does. Obviously, we're at pick 29 this year. The Lions are pick 29, so we'll see if they're able to find a guy to their liking of that level that late in the draft. But I could see them trading up. They've made trades the last 2 years, up for J-Mo and down for Jahmyr Gibbs, and they were able to get their guys. So we'll see what happens this year.
They're not afraid to take chances. That's for sure.
It's worked out.
It has.
I think when we're talking about positions, though, I think you got to go defensive side of the ball with the Lions. As great as they were down the stretch with the run game, it was still, a headache watching them sometimes, and they've got to get it together. The offense is firing on all cylinders. They lost an offensive lineman, Jonah Jackson, to the Rams, which is obviously a huge loss. Maybe you draft a guard later in the draft, but I think you got to go defense, and I know they don't really like to go corners as much, but I think Kool-Aid McKinstry would be a good guy. He's obviously played with the best coach in college football history, Nick Saban at Alabama. They got to do something, and I think defense is the way to go, at least early on.
Yeah.
All right, the Lions likely won't be in the market for this next guy, Michigan quarterback JJ McCarthy. He's become the wild card of this year's draft, sparking a wide range of opinions. He led Michigan to a 27-1 record in 2 years as the starter, capped off, of course, by last year's undefeated season. and a national championship. Jacob, you're a Giants fan. They could be in the market for a quarterback. How would you feel as a fan if your team took the Michigan man?
Listen, you guys aren't going to like this, Michigan fans perhaps, and I think McCarthy is great. He's only gotten better each and every year that he's been in the starting role. I mean, he threw for 300 more yards last year than he did the year before, and you look at the Ohio State game, you look at the Alabama game, he was great. He has the ability to make some big plays. But if I'm in the top 10, JJ McCarthy is not someone that I am looking to draft.
Wow.
He has skyrocketed. His combine was great. His pro day was great. He's probably skyrocketed more than anyone in this draft coming up. And I think he has a chance to be a good NFL quarterback, but he needs to sit behind a quarterback for a little bit. My Giants, that's not a situation. If you're in the top 5, that's not a situation that you're looking to have. If I'm going quarterback, obviously if it's not Caleb Williams, I would rather a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels before JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because he had such a great combine pro day, really has elevated that draft stock. But the concern is that Michigan's offense didn't revolve around the pass game.
And that's more of a running game with McCorm and
that's not a knock on J.J. McCarthy. He did what they needed to do to win a national championship. But there is that concern that wasn't their MO to throw the ball 30, 40 times a game, which in this current era of the NFL, your quarterback needs to throw the ball, at least more quarterbacks than not. And he's not a running quarterback at the end of the day. So it'll be interesting to see who takes the risk, because he's going to go top 10, it seems like.
I think he's going top 5.
Yeah, you can
argue top 5. The funny thing about the quarterbacks in this draft outside of Caleb, we don't know how it's going to shake out in any which way. He could go 2. He could go
12.
Yeah. 12. It's
the funniest part about this is that if the Los Angeles Chargers didn't already have Justin Herbert, it would be a match made for him to go back to Jim Harbaugh and ride being with his old coach. But obviously they're not. They have an absolute stud in Justin Herbert that just needs some help from the offensive line standpoint, and they need some defensive help. The Chargers do too. But someone's going to take the risk, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
So here's the thing that gets me about this debate. You get everybody kind of the stock answer for the first 3 picks is Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. The minute you insert JJ McCarthy as a possibility at 2 or 3, everybody loses their mind. It's like, what? That's insane. And I'm like, JJ McCarthy has just as many red flags as Drake May and as Jaden Daniels. They are all riddled with red flags. But what JJ McCarthy has that I don't know if the other 2 have, they might, but JJ McCarthy, you will never question his work ethic, the competitive spirit, the drive that he puts in. So many of these first-round quarterbacks, you just don't know what they're going to do when they get to the league. They get that paycheck, and you just don't know. I am more confident than anybody, including Caleb Williams, that JJ McCarthy is not going to be changed by the NFL. He's going to go into a situation. He's going to change them. Now, I'm not saying JJ McCarthy is a slam dunk. I'm a Michigan fan. I'm a homer. I might have a blind spot for him. I probably do. He won a national championship. But he's not some 3-star recruit that came out of nowhere. He was a 5-star recruit, he can make every play on the football field. He's got 4.5 speed. He's got a rocket for an arm. Just because he wasn't asked to do it at Michigan doesn't mean he can't do it. He did everything they asked him to do to win football games, and I think that's what he'll do at the next level as long as he goes to the right situation. I think any one of those quarterbacks we've talked about goes to the New England Patriots, they'll probably be a failure because they have nothing to work with in that 3 spot. They have no weapons. They have nobody to throw the ball to.
Yep.
But if the Minnesota Vikings can get up there to number 5 or number 4 and take J.J. McCarthy and give him Justin Jefferson and T.J. Hawkinson and Aaron Jones and Kevin O'Connell at the quarterback, I think he will be set up for success, and I have very few doubts that he will. It's just like with most quarterbacks, situation matters a lot.
It'll be a match made in heaven in Minnesota, especially as a Midwest guy growing up in Chicago, playing in Michigan. But I think Jim Harbaugh has said time and time again, he's the best quarterback to ever come out of Michigan. And who's the greatest quarterback of all time? Tom Brady. Where did he go to school? Michigan. I think McCarthy's going to be great wherever he ends up going. I would like to see him go to the Patriots actually at 3, because I think it'd be kind of cool to say he's following in Tom Brady's footsteps. But I think he's a guy who's very underrated because of the offense that was run at Michigan. And it's because you had the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. Like, just run it behind those guys. He didn't need to do anything else. He could have. I've seen there's some throws. There was a throw against Ohio State this year where he threw the touchdown pass to Roman Wilson.
That was
it was an unbelievable, like, once-in-a-generation type of quarterback makes that
he
throw.
stepped up more than didn't step up when he needed to.
Yeah.
And that just shows, again, the type of player that he has been and he can be in the NFL, making these big-time throws. It definitely, like you said, Brad, is that he needs to be the right fit. As much as it would be cool to go to New England to follow the steps of Brady, they just don't have weapons on that team.
And he's won everywhere he's gone. So
True.
to be thrown into a situation like that, which he would be with Washington or New England, it would be interesting to see how he would fare in a situation where a team is going to have to rebuild.
I think an interesting situation is with Arizona. Do they stick with Kyler Murray? Obviously, there's been concern with both in the injury way and he has struggled as he's progressed, and it's going to be interesting. Do they try to dump Kyler to another team that's looking for a quarterback, such as maybe trading to Minnesota, and then they try to find their own quarterback? I mean, there's a lot of variables in that top 5 that can be played out.
I think that would be the shock of the draft if they moved on from Kyler Murray, just because he was #1 overall pick. They've invested so much in this guy. They already gave him the big payday that he's gotten. But yeah, I think McCarthy could end up being really good for wherever he goes. I think he's clearly got a good head on his shoulders. He's won. He knows how to win at any level. And Jim Harbaugh, he also had pro-style coaching the last few years. So not any of the other guys have had that. So I think, again, really good quarterback, JJ McCarthy. So he's one of 6 quarterbacks who could go in the first round. And Caleb Williams is, of course, going first overall to the Bears. There's not really any debate there. But after that, it gets interesting. LSU's Jaden Daniels, North Carolina's Drake May, Oregon's Bo Nix, and Washington's Michael Penix could all get taken in the first round. Daniels and May are seen as high first-round picks, with Nix and Penix seen as more of a question mark. Jacob, who carries the most risk?
Jaden Daniels has the most risk. He is athletic. He can make a lot of something happen out of nothing, and we saw that this year. He had a really good LSU team. Him and Malik Neighbors were a lot of fun to watch. Another one who's going to be drafted in the top 5, but I do not love Jaden Daniels' arm. He has a tough time getting the ball in the tight window. He doesn't have the biggest arm like Drake May or even JJ McCarthy has shown, so I'm probably not in love with Jaden Daniels in the top 5 either, right there with JJ McCarthy. If I had to pick one who's going to be the surefire out of these guys, I'd probably go Drake May. Of course, he has his red flags, just like all of these guys do, but his athletic ability, he's a big boy. He can still move in the pocket. He's got a big arm, an accurate arm. Yes, he's a little bit raw, but I probably like Drake May if I'm one of these
He fits
teams.
the mold of an NFL quarterback, with his size. Obviously, Bo Nix is not expected to be in the top 5. I think out of all quarterbacks, Bo Nix would be, sorry, Bo, but probably a little bit on the lower
45
side.
touchdowns and 3 interceptions last year, Blake.
I mean, he had a great year, no doubt about it. And I think it's more the system that Oregon has that really allowed him to blossom. But there's a lot of red flags when it comes to Bo Nix in terms of his big game presence. I'm with Jacob here. I think that Jaden Daniels is definitely, though, out of the top tier of quarterbacks, is the biggest risk, because we have seen similar type of quarterbacks that throw these big numbers, can run all over the place, and outside of really Lamar Jackson, I mean, you don't really see that translate as much compared to a Drake May that has the size, big guy in the pocket that has that presence.
I would disagree. I think I think everybody, all these quarterbacks carries risk. For me, it is Drake May. Jaden Daniels, he's skinny, but he's tall. I think they're going to get him in the weight room. He's going to put on some muscle. I think he's going to be fine. He's 6'4". So is Drake May. But the lack of competitiveness that North Carolina was,
absolutely.
While Drake May was their starting quarterback for 2 years, they continuously let down in big games. And it's not like the ACC is murderer's row. Like, you have a top 5 quarterback for a couple years, prospect. It's not like they didn't have weapons. They had NFL wide receivers on North Carolina, and yet they could not win any big games. They couldn't contend for a conference, and that's a huge red flag for me. Yes, he's 6'4". Yes, he's got a big arm. But there's clearly something where he is not making the team better. It doesn't seem to me. So for me, it's Drake May. And it kind of reeks a little bit of Mitch Trubisky, Deshaun Watson. If people go, if New England goes Drake May with JJ McCarthy, a national championship winning quarterback who also has a ton of tools, for the lesser known prospect who, he has the stature and all this stuff, but he didn't actually produce in college, I think that could be a little bit of a situation where we saw it play out with Trubisky and Watson.
I can see that. I'll tell you this, though. Patrick Mahomes didn't produce in college, and he's, one of the best quarterbacks of all time now, 5 years in, already 3 Super Bowls. I will tell you this, though, when it comes to Drake May, I agree with you, only because he went to North Carolina. And who's going to be the guy who takes a risk on another North Carolina quarterback? We've seen Mitch Trubisky come out of UNC. Not great. Sam Howell, solid, not anything special. Drake May. What's he going to do? You look at guys that Mac Brown has produced in college. I mean, great quarterbacks with Vince Young, Colt McCoy. You can go down the list with Mac Brown. Have any of them been great NFL quarterbacks? No. And that's I think that has something to go with it, too. I think, like you said, he's got all the stature. He declined this year in his play. I think a lot of people like the intangibles. But what about the tangibles? That's what I'm talking about. Like, what do you got? What about the tangibles? I don't know with Drake May. I don't know. I think a lot of the quarterbacks, I mean, you could even say Caleb Williams is a risk. There's so many guys in this draft where you never really know who's a sure thing. And I think Drake May, of all the quarterbacks there, at their value, Bo Nix probably maybe a first-rounder, Penix maybe a first-rounder. At the value of top 3, Drake May, I'm a little bit hesitant.
And it's also one of those points with Penix, too. The guy's got an arm, no doubt about it. But, he comes with his own concern. This is a big credit to Michigan's defense, of course, from last season. But he struggled. And it's going to be very interesting. Like you said, and I know as a Bears fan, Mark, even Caleb Williams presents his own risk. He struggled down the stretch with USC, and they didn't really compete towards the end. I mean, granted, maybe some of that is USC's woes on the defensive side of the ball, but I think all these quarterbacks, there's no one that, yes, Caleb Williams is going to go number 1, pretty much, that's a lock, but there's not one quarterback that's just a sure bet is going to succeed in the NFL this year, which obviously comes most years, but I really think it's going to be the case this year.
And we really haven't mentioned Penix at all, and I mean his story was amazing. You talk about his arm, you talk about his move from Indiana to Washington, and he was great. But my next franchise quarterback is not going to be someone who has torn his ACL twice.
And is he 25?
He's older.
He's been around.
And
a
he's
while.
a lefty, and I just can't. You never know with the lefties.
Different spin on the ball.
Yeah. All right, let's bring it back closer to home. U of M coming off that national championship run, now looking to break the record for most selections and a single draft. That's currently 15, set by Georgia in 2022. Michigan had 18 players invited to this year's Combine. After McCarthy, top prospects include defensive tackle Chris Jenkins, wide receiver Roman Wilson, and defensive back Mike Sainristil. Brad, you're our Michigan super fan here. Which Michigan man
not
is
at all.
going to be a steal for an NFL team? And I think there's only one answer here, and if you get it wrong, I'm going to be very disappointed.
I'm guessing you're probably thinking I'm going to say Mike Sainristil.
No.
My first choice is Roman Wilson.
Really? I think that's the wrong answer.
I think he's going to be the steal of the draft because just like JJ McCarthy, in that offense, he was not asked to do a lot. But when he got the opportunity, you mentioned the catch against Ohio State. The other one that comes to mind is that contested catch he had against Nebraska over the guy's back in the back of the end zone. Stepped up big in the Rose Bowl on that final drive. He is a matchup nightmare. I think he's going to be a prototypical slot guy. He ran a 4.4 at the Combine. He's got speed. He's got quicks. He's got the contested catch factor. He's got the hands. I think if you can get him, now like you said, it's the steal of the draft part. I think if you can get him early 3rd round, I don't know if he'd be there, but even late 2nd, I think he'd be a steal. And if he were to go to a really good offense like the Chiefs, I think he could absolutely, looking back a couple years from now, be like, how did that guy fall so far?
He would be a dominant with the Chiefs. I would be jealous of Mahomes having another weapon like that. Honestly, I think many of these Michigan guys could be steals in the draft. What about you guys? What do you think?
I love Roman Wilson as well. I think I love him as that late second, early third round pick. His route running is impeccable, and with all the wide receiver talent this year, if you miss in the first round, if the guy you want gets taken, then Wilson's a great one. I think Chris Jenkins is going to be someone that really makes some noise. I do get a little weary about guys that have dominated the combine, and that's why their stock rises so much. You know, the combine, we should put helmets and pads on them because, you know, running around in T-shirts doesn't really do it for me. But I think Jenkins is a guy that's going to be a difference maker. Again, if you get him in the second round, you could be looking in a couple of years and say, how did that guy fall?
I can't believe he's not going to be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Jenkins was unbelievable.
He was. I'm with Brad. I really think Roman Wilson, yes, a little bit on the smaller side, only about 6 foot, but we see some of these other receivers, our own Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's an excellent route runner and catches the ball just like Roman Wilson does. And I think in that late second, early third round, especially if he falls a little bit farther into the third round, that is a steal. My big concern is Blake Corum. Obviously, what a talented football player. Let's not disagree with that. But I worry he's been injured here and there throughout his career, and he was a workhorse at Michigan. He has a lot of miles on him already, and you're talking about a smaller running back moving up to the NFL with already a lot of miles on him. I get a little weary, especially with that running back position in the NFL.
I'm really hoping he goes to the Chargers, reunited with Jim Harbaugh. They just got rid of Austin Eckler, so it makes sense to have him there. He'd be awesome. But you guys, I'm very disappointed in all three of you because the clear answer is Zach Zenner. He broke his leg in the Ohio State game, was going to be a projected first-round pick. Now he's projected to be selected in the 5th round. So if you could get him in the 5th round, steal the draft. Obviously, we don't know how he's going to recover from breaking his tibia, but this is a guy who was an All-American, the captain of the Joe Moore winning offensive line 2 years running. He is the guy who I would want on my team if I'm the Lions. I want him. They just
If
lost
he's going to
Jonah
slide
Jackson.
down all the way to the 5th round, I mean, that's not even a risk at that point. That is taking advantage of a poor situation, obviously, with his injury, but he is very talented.
Yeah, I mean, what comes back to me as a Bears fan, I'm not sure how many people know the story of Eddie Jackson, who was the safety out of Alabama who they drafted. He broke his leg his senior year of college and was a 4th-round pick, and he ended up being a Pro Bowler his first year in the NFL. A lot of guys overlook these injuries because they think that they're not going to be able to recover from them. Who knows if Zinter's going to be able to do that? I think he's a freak athlete, and he's a big reason why Michigan was as dominant as they were the last
Heart
few
and
years.
soul of the offensive line, and you saw how the team rallied around him when he went down against Ohio State. It was immediate. You know, when he went down, that they scored a touchdown on the very next play, and kind of dedicated the win to Zach. And you saw the pictures afterward, Jim Harbaugh in the hospital with him, and so the respect that the team had for him was off the charts. So I agree with you. I had not seen that he fell that far in terms of his stock. So I think he would be absolutely a steal. And then speaking of heart and soul of the team, and on the defensive side, Mike Sandro, I think he's going to be an outstanding nickelback in the NFL. Converted wide receiver, almost immediately became one of the best defensive backs in the country. Like, that just doesn't happen overnight, but he did it. He's got just ball hawking skills. He goes up, he attacks the ball. He's a little undersized. That's why he's, you know, mostly projected in the 2nd round. But I've seen some analysts that think that he could sneak in there on the back half of the 1st. But if he gets to the mid-2nd, late 2nd, you know, as a Lions fan, I would love to have him. Obviously, we already got Brian Branch that plays the exact same position, so it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. But I think with him, you can find a spot on the football field for him.
And I think one last thing with all these picks, Michigan or other guys across the college field, and we've kind of brought some of this up with certain players, I think we need to lessen our worry about past injuries in this day and age. Of course, it's a big deal, don't get me wrong, but it's not 1990 anymore. We have 2024. These guys are stronger, faster, more athletic than they ever have been, and come back from injuries way sooner than what it was even 10 years ago. So while there's some concern with injuries with some of these players, at the end of the day, what they've shown on the field, I think, is still just more important than the injury they had.
Yeah, and honestly, with all these Michigan guys, like I mentioned earlier, I think any of them are really going to be a steal. I mean, I felt like watching them every single game last year. It's like, wow, like they don't have any weaknesses anywhere. They were the best team in college football that I've seen since the LSU team in 2019. So it'll be really interesting to see where everyone goes, because I think, again, they were just so dominant, one of the best teams ever.
Record is 15 selections. I think it was set by Georgia a few years back. It'll be interesting to see if they get there.
I bet they could. I really do. All right, a big reason why people pay attention to the draft is, of course, fantasy football. A lot of skilled players are projected to go in the first round, especially with a loaded wide receiver class. Now, let's go around the horn. What rookie in this draft do you think will be a fantasy stud this year? And before we go around first, I just want to add that the last 2 times I've won my fantasy league, I've drafted a rookie late, and it was Le'Veon Bell late in the draft in 2016, I believe, and then or 2013, and then Michael Thomas a few years later. So it's finding those key guys, rookie guys late
I feel
in the
like
draft
that's wearing off, though. Your aura, that was from decades
Yeah,
ago.
it was a long time ago.
Those are the last time you won.
It's been a
What's
minute.
happened these last few years?
It's been rough. The rookies haven't been. Nelson Aguilar is a bum. They've all been terrible. So
Sorry, Nelson.
all right, Jacob, we'll start with you. Which rookie?
I'm
do you
taking Brock Bowers if
Okay.
he's available. I mean, of course, in fantasy, the tight end market is always so slim. If you're not getting a Kelsey, maybe a Laporta this year.
You're on that waiver wire all year.
Yeah, if I can get Brock Bowers, this is going to be my redemption year on Kyle Pitts, where you think a tight end is going to jump in and make an immediate impact for your fantasy team. I think Bowers is going to do that. I think him and the Jets could be a match made in heaven.
Well, rookie tight ends never seem to really do well, except for Laporta. I think he was the exception.
They don't. I'm all in on what I saw from him at Georgia, though. He was a difference maker on a national champion contending team.
Yeah, for me, it's Brian Thomas, the wide receiver out of LSU. Big body, can go up and get it with anybody. And here's the thing I like about his value. He's projected to go kind of late teens, early 20s, and that'll probably mean he's going to go to an established offense with an established quarterback who's a team that's either contending or right on the verge of contending. And I think he could absolutely take off. You go to any number of wide receiver needy teams. You could go to the Cowboys. He would be a stud opposite of CeeDee Lamb. The Saints. Saints are in need of a wide receiver opposite Chris Olave. So I think any of those teams would be he could fit just about any team in the back half of the draft. And I think he's going to make somebody a lot better, and he's going to make a lot of fantasy teams a lot better.
Especially someone that's probably not going to be drafted until those late rounds, because most casuals won't even consider. Obviously, I'm with Jacob with Bowers. I really think that guy is an exceptional tight end. Obviously, had the injury bug this last season a little bit, but coming off of what Sam Laporta did and just how there is such a lack of quality tight ends week in and week out, I think Bowers is going to do that, especially if he goes to the Jets with Rodgers coming back. They need a tight end.
If you have a good tight end on your fantasy team, I mean, that's a game changer.
It is a game
Every
changer.
week.
I guess if to throw out another name, and I know this is just such a casual name, but you can't go wrong with Marvin Harrison.
I was going to say, I can't believe nobody said Marvin Harrison.
I just feel like everyone he is the number one offensive player besides the quarterback position. That guy's ready to be in the NFL. He's going to put up numbers, and we've seen countless times. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or not. If you're a stud wide receiver, you're going to put up numbers, especially in the right fit for a team that has a quarterback.
And he's going to be the number one guy in the Cardinals offense, assuming he goes number 4. I feel like that's what makes the most sense.
Yep.
And he's been NFL ready for a few years
Yeah.
now. I remember the Michigan State game in East Lansing a few years ago where it seemed like he was making every single catch possible, like between the legs, over the back, like anything you wanted. Marvin Harrison was making that. Obviously, he's got great genetics, too.
Just a little.
So Hall of Fame genetics. So I think he's going to be great wherever he goes, probably Arizona. But I think he'll be a great fantasy guy. And I think one guy, this maybe it's a little bit biased, Caleb Williams. You look at what he's going to be going into, probably the best position ever for a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
The Bears weren't 2-13 or 2-15. They weren't 3-14. They were 7-10. So they weren't so the 8-9. I can't remember what they were. But they were a middle of the pack team. Yeah, no, it's
Can't do
throwing
the
me
math.
off.
Can't do the math
The
anymore.
math is not. I was not a math major, but I think Caleb Williams, the weapons that he's going to have, DJ Moore, who was 6th in the league in receiving yards last year, Keenan Allen, who was number 11 in the league in receiving yards last year, and they're probably going to draft a receiver at 9, Rome Odunze. So that's going to be a loaded wide receiving room right off the bat for Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be in a great position to succeed. Obviously, we don't know how he's going to feel with the new offensive coordinator coming into town, how he's going to relate to the NFL game. Who knows how everything's going to translate, but I feel like in terms of quarterbacks being put in a best position to succeed right away, I can't think of anybody in recent history who's had more weapons than he has.
By
right
far
out
the
of the
best position a Bears quarterback has been
Oh,
in.
yeah.
Probably
Sure.
in the history of the
Mitch
franchise.
Trubisky's first year, I think they had Kendall Wright as their number 1 receiver. I'm sure you guys
Not-
don't even
not
know who
good.
that guy
Not
is.
good.
Justin Fields' number 1 guy was Darnell Mooney, who was a 5th-round pick. So I think Caleb Williams is in a great position to succeed. Get him late in the draft. No one likes to pick Bears quarterback, so he'll probably be a good value fantasy-wise.
Quick tip for all you fantasy players out there. Almost every year we have a couple running backs, a couple rookie running backs who come in, and they're almost immediately a first-round pick, second-round pick. It's not going to happen this year.
No.
If you're in a dynasty league, if you're in a keeper league, go out now, trade for those. If you need a running back, you better go trade for him because you're not going to find a lot in this draft. Blake Corum is up there. I'm blanking on his name. There's a guy in Texas, I think, who's seen as the number 1 prospect. But nobody's going first round in the real NFL draft.
No.
And it's going to be a question mark if any running back gets drafted in the second round.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be a lot out there in terms of fantasy to go get.
I do think if you do draft a rookie running back, see what the Chargers end up doing because obviously Harbaugh
Yes.
likes to run the ball a lot. I think they're probably going to go offensive line at 5 if they stay there. So they'll be running behind a good offensive line with whoever they pick at 5 and then the guy that drafted out of Northwestern a few years ago. So I think, yeah, I really like Blake Corum a lot. Obviously a little bit biased covering him the last few years, but I think he'd be a great addition. And you look at Kenneth Walker right off the bat at Michigan State. He was awesome. And then his first year with the Seahawks, he was great too. So I think you can find value, even if it's a second-round pick in the fantasy-wise, for sure.
Yeah, I think, the running back position, no matter if it's someone coming out of the draft or just someone that is sustained in the NFL, that running back position for fantasy football is a big wild card each and every year. Obviously, Eckler was a first-round pick from the Chargers this year, and he fell off the map as the year goes on. So, like Brad said, this running back class is not the greatest this year.
Well, even when it's great, like Jahmyr Gibbs didn't really catch on till at the end of the last season, and the same with Bijan Robinson wasn't anything
wasn't
special.
really-
I had Gibbs and Montgomery on my team this year. I had to debate every Sunday who to
Which
start.
one?
I got to the
That
point
was a
where I was
committee.
just starting both.
Yeah, honestly.
Not a
that
bad
didn't hurt
combo.
you.
And you're seeing that more with NFL teams too, especially if they do draft a running back. It's not the big workhorse anymore. It's usually a committee because they need to save these guys. That running back position's not a friendly one in terms of injuries, and you see more and more of this committee being played out with teams, and just really lowers the value from a fantasy standpoint.
All right, well, we do have a couple West Michigan guys hoping to hear their name called on draft night. Western Michigan edge rusher Marshon Neal is a Godwin Heights High School graduate. He wrapped up 6 sacks last season for the Broncos, showing off a high motor that consistently wreaked havoc in the opponent's backfield. And Wolverines offensive lineman Carson Barnhart is a Pawpaw graduate. He's projected as a late day 3 pick. Barnhart was a mainstay on that Wolverines dominant offensive line, starting over 31 games over 5 seasons, playing pretty much everywhere on the offensive line. So we'll be curious to see where those guys go. And obviously last year we had 2 guys from West Michigan drafted, and Anthony Bradford going to the Seahawks in the 4th round, Mozzie Smith going in the 1st round out of East Kentwood High School to the Cowboys. It's going to be really interesting to see where these guys go. Marshon Neal, obviously a dominant talent. He had a chance to go transfer to Colorado and play for Deion Sanders this season, but he wanted to stay home, play at Kalamazoo, at Western Michigan, and he was dominant in the time that he played. He did battle some injuries, but he's a day 2 pick, and Jacob's spoken to him more recently at Pro Day. Jacob, what impresses you about Marshon Neal and what he brings to an NFL roster?
Yeah, he's going to be a big addition, a guy that can make a difference from day one of training camp. He was a tight end at Godwin Heights, so he's an athlete. You see that on the field. He's chasing down plays. Once the quarterback's out of the pocket, once that pass has been thrown, the play is not over for Nealand. And you mentioned the 6 sacks. Well, he's 13 for his career, and almost half of those came just this last season. He's gotten better every single year that he's been with the Broncos. So this is a hometown guy who's going into day 2 looking to show off, and he has a lot of pride in West Michigan. I think he's going to be a difference maker wherever he lands.
Could be the second Bronco taken in the second round in 3 years, with Sky Moore going to the Chiefs a few years ago. It'll be really interesting to see where he lands, because I think he's a good kid too.
Yes.
I think that's what people are looking for. Obviously, the first game of the season against St. Francis, they put him in to get a big boy touchdown.
We love that.
So we love the big boy touchdowns, but that shows just the respect that he probably garners in that locker room, and it's probably going to translate very easily to the next level at the NFL. Really hoping it'd be great if he went to the Lions. It'd be really cool. But Carson Barnhart out of Pawpaw played everywhere on the offensive line, both sides of the ball. Brad, you know all about him at Michigan. What stands out to you about him? And he could end up being the steal that we were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he's in terms of his size, his measurables, he's not going to be a day 1 starter his rookie year on any NFL offensive line, probably. But like you said, he's played a lot of football, a lot of high-level football for Michigan, and he's moved all over the line. That kind of versatility in a 6th-round pick, a 7th-round pick, if he can just make an NFL roster and kind of be that swing guy, that plug-and-play, injuries happen all over the offensive line, and teams need guys on the bench that can go and be a guard, they can be a center. He projects as an interior lineman. He played a lot of tackle at Michigan, but he's probably not big enough to play offensive tackle in the NFL right now. But I think he could be a great player. We talked about it earlier. Any one of these Michigan guys that are on the offensive line, I want to say there's 5 of them in this draft class, I think will be ready to go in the NFL from day 1. Harbaugh and Sharon Moore, I think, have gotten them ready to go. So I think Barnhart, and really cool for Pawpaw. It's not a big city or anything. It's not a big community. That I don't think they have had a ton of NFL guys, but I think Barnhart's going to get drafted, and hopefully he can stick to a roster.
A lot of value for him at those later rounds. And Nealand, as a Central Michigan Chippewa alum, he has wreaked havoc on the Chippewas, but that guy has a motor, and it'll be a sight to see if he does make his presence felt in that first year of his rookie year. But I'm just assuming that he's just going to get bigger, faster, fit the mold to the NFL style of play, and I don't see why he'll have any issue adapting well.
No, one of the guys who I follow looking at all these mock drafts, and no one knows anything, and neither do we. We're just talking. But Dane Brugler thinks that Marshon Neal could sneak into the end of the first round, which would be something really cool to see, especially as from a local guy. To have 2 guys in back-to-back years from West Michigan go in the first round would be something special. But we'll see. I think whatever team drafts either Barnhart or Nealand is going to get a stud and someone who's going to work hard and just be a good guy for the locker room, which is always what people are looking for, teams are looking for.
Yeah, and Nealand fits a need for the Lions. Maybe we get lucky. Maybe he sticks at home and helps the Lions shore up that defensive line and work outside of Aiden Hutchinson. How cool would that be?
That'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be pretty
Give
sweet.
Aiden some help. That's for sure. That is the biggest thing with the Lions in this draft. Give Aiden some help. I know they've already tried to with some of these free agent signings, but you can always use more defensive line help.
And it was always Christmas morning for me on draft day. It's always a great time of the year. I'm sure for you Lions fans, it's a little bit different now this year because you guys are actually winning games. As a Bears fan, this is like my favorite
I almost
day of the year.
argue that this is even more exciting than years past because there is such a high expectation this season for the Lions coming off last year's success. It's always exciting getting the big-time player off the board, but then you look at it, we were 2-14. We only had 3 wins the previous year. Then you think, okay, well, one guy's important, but he's not going to make the team turn around in just an instant. So this year, with Brad Holmes at the helm, I think this year is more exciting than those years have passed because anyone that they get is going to help hopefully lead to a Super Bowl championship.
And here's to hoping they don't trade that pick on draft night. All those fans who make it out there.
And you Lion fans, make sure you drink your caffeine before pick 29.
I know. I mean, you're talking about
that's going to be late.
Yeah, about 3 hours in. But yeah, I will be one of those Lions fans. We wait all night. You never know what the weather's going to be like in Detroit on April 25th. It could be cold. It could be snowing. You just never know. You wait all that time, and then they trade out of that first round.
And Jacob, these fans don't need caffeine. They just need that Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
and they're all set to go.
They'll be good.
All right, a reminder, you can watch the 2024 NFL Draft live from Detroit right here on 13 on your side. Round 1 coverage begins Thursday, April 25th at 8 p.m. Rounds 2 and 3 begin Friday at 7 p.m. and rounds 4 through 7 are Saturday at noon. Also, make sure you check out our website, 13onyourside.com, for much more on this year's draft, including what to know if you're planning on going to Detroit. For Jacob Seuss, Blake Hansen, and Brad Ivy, I'm Mark School Jr. Thanks for watching.